Hello and welcome to today's class. Today we'll be working on the little bit elusive Parivrtta Janu Sirsasana. So it is a hip opener, leg stretcher, side bending wonder of a pose. and it is very accessible for pretty much everyone. So we'll start with the accessible variation, and then hopefully I'll personally get warm enough that I can show you where we're leading up to. We'll see. It's one of those, like I say, it's elusive a little bit unless you're very flexible. And for me, it's a little elusive unless I'm really warm and really stretched out. So we'll see how we do. For now, let's get started in child's pose, or whatever starting position you really like to center in. So I'm in Virasana here, hero pose, but I do like a good child's pose. So getting all settled in, taking a few moments. And we center for a few different reasons in yoga, but one of them is to prepare the body for your yoga practice. A little bit mentally as well. I really like to think about, okay, what am I doing today in my yoga practice? And with my eyes closed, thinking about the areas that need to be strong, thinking about the areas that need to be supple, thinking about the type of pose that's the peak pose. And so for today, it's mostly flexibility. So some of the poses, they might be a stronger pose and you want to feel some strength, gather strength and energy in your centering posture. Today, thinking and feeling the essence of supple, gooey, those types of words. I even like to repeat them in my mind to allow my body to adapt to those specific words and emulate those words. So suppleness, limber, full range of motion, all of those thoughts in today's practice. Specifically in the hips, in the back a little bit of spinal twist in this posture as well. And in the shoulders. So just sending some energy and attention, awareness to those areas of the body while we're centering. And then take a few slow, deep breaths through the nose. So we'll get our muscles lots of oxygen before we get started. Let's do 3 slow, deep breaths through the nose. Through the nose inhaling, through the nose exhaling. And once those 3 breaths are complete, then allow the breathing to return to normal. And then slowly open the eyes and come on up through hands and knees, taking a moment here, and then we'll head into a downward facing dog. So tuck the toes under, hips pressed up and back, maybe walking it out a little bit if you want to, but feeling that stretch in the backs of the legs. For today's pose, we will need some leg flexibility, so our downward dogs will be very important. Not that they always aren't. And from here, scoop the belly in, gently lower through hands and knees, and then all the way back to a seated position. In Dandasana staff pose, feet are forward. And then we'll start with a few stretches. So let's start in Baddha Konasana, bound angle pose. Draw the feet in towards the body, soles of the feet together, and allow the knees to fall out to the sides. If you need any props, feel free. So that might be a folded blanket beneath the hips. We want to have our body at least perpendicular to the earth, if not slightly forward. So once you're there, leaning forward as much as your body will allow. So take as much space as your body will give you, but no more. So that's the most effective way of stretching and getting flexible faster. So we find the edge, don't push past it. Be sure that the knees are 100% okay. If not, try a block beneath one or both knees. And then slowly sinking and melting. And slow, deep breathing through the nose too. And just like in our centering posture, have that awareness where we're feeling the stretch. So thinking supple, thinking limber, thinking relaxed. Oftentimes when we stretch, we think of something else. We pop into a stretch and then we plan our day or something, or watch a YouTube video, or I do. But today, let's really focus on our body. It's the most effective and efficient way to get flexible faster. So keeping our awareness on the spaces that are feeling a stretch. I'm feeling a stretch a little bit in the low back as well, but not too much. It feels okay. If there's any sharp pain, we need to come out a little bit. Last few moments here. And then slowly come on up and return to Dandasana staff pose. Maybe a couple little knee taps. And then our next pose will be straddle, or a variation of Upavishta Konasana, but for this one it's more like Samakonasana. So the first is like a 90-degree angle and we find our feet and lean forward. But Samakonasana, Sama means same, so that would be your full splits, one leg on this side and the same on the other. So trying to find your full straddle, wherever that may be, and we're still not warmed up yet, so wherever that is, find your edge, don't push past it. Once you're in, leaning forward. So same thing again, you might need your blanket to sit up on top of, or you might need a block. And then slowly finding your edge, not pushing past it. Breathing deep. Sometimes we hold these poses for several minutes. That's not today. About a minute. Little bit more. So finding the edge, and if your body gives you a little bit more space, then take a little bit more space. If your body says, oh, that's too much, then bring it back a little bit. So always playing the edge, and that might need a little bit of movement here and there. We're trying to find stillness as much as possible, except for when our body either gives us some more space or requests that we take it back a notch. Few deep breaths here, so we'll give those muscles lots of oxygen. The other thing that really helps flexibility, although it doesn't do us much good right now in this very moment, is hydration of the muscles. So when I work on flexibility, I try to increase my water intake, even just a little bit. I try to decrease alcohol and caffeinated beverages and increase water. And depending on how much activity, maybe even an electrolyte drink. Slowly, we'll come on up and we'll take a break from the legs for just a moment, give them a little rest, and then we'll stretch the side body. So lifting up nice and tall, let's lean over onto the left hand, right arm reaches up and over to the side. So this is a big side bend, and finding your full range of motion. So maybe that's up on the hand, or maybe that's lowering onto the elbow, whatever works for you, not pushing past your edge. So we want to feel a gentle stretch. This specific movement is in our final posture for today. And then at the same time, we're opening up and spinning the heart open to the sky. Couple deep breaths here. Really feeling that stretch along the side body, but not too much. Very, very gentle. Belly scoops in, come on all the way up, and other side. Up and over. And not just over, but then opening. So spinning the heart open to the sky, and just keeping in mind this very movement is in our peak posture today. So practicing here, this is an easy version of our posture. And belly scoops in, we come on all the way up. And then heading into a bit of a counter stretch. So this movement isn't needed in our stretch today or in our posture today, but it's good to do all angles, because if we find flexibility in one direction, the opposite direction also gets a little bit more limber. So what we're doing here, I always take forever to get into this posture. It's low lunge and Janiyasana. So right foot forward, left leg back. I like my back knee on a squishy thing, lifting up nice and tall. I don't know why, it just takes me forever to find my blocks, get my blanket all set up. Just not very coordinated. This is why after all those years of ballet dance training, I wound up in yoga, not dancing. Sure tried hard with that ballet, but it is not in my DNA. So melting into it. Two deep breaths for 1. And 2. Let's slowly switch sides. Maybe not as slowly as I do, but I'm gonna go ahead and switch it up. I know I say so. This is like the fastest I actually am physically able to switch sides. So, and sinking and melting. Once again, thinking of those same phrases or words that we did in our centering posture. So supple muscles, relax is a word I like to repeat in my mind. Soften. Melting is a good one. All of those words, it's interesting how when we think of those words in our mind, you can almost feel the muscles responding. Two deep breaths for 1. 2. And slowly come on out. And we'll head to a seated position with the feet forward in Dandasana staff pose. And then we'll head into a hamstring stretch. So I like to have a blanket under my heels and under my hips. A folded blanket just for comfort. So I suppose I don't need 2. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to switch this back a bit. This is what I like about yoga. You can take your time getting set up. I like that. So, oh, my legs aren't quite that long. I pretend. So legs are forward, lifting up nice and tall. So we want to make sure, safety, a little safety talk first. When we do our forward fold and reaching for those toes, be sure that you do not, it feels like you kind of want to pull the flesh away. It just feels nicer, not going to lie. But that can be harmful to our hamstrings tendons where the tendons attach to the bone. So what we want to do is, I like to just do like a lift up and then be directly on the squish. It doesn't feel as nice, but it protects our hamstrings tendons. So lifting up nice and tall on an inhale. And on the exhale, forward fold, reaching for those toes. Okay, I have a small tangent to talk about because I'm thinking about it, so I talk about it. This pose specifically it's really difficult not to look at my toes and be like, I need a better pedicure. I just did my toes and I missed some spots. And so I hope this is not just me, but what we do here is instead of fixing it now, right? Be okay with it. And so it might sound silly, but this is actually a yogic activity. In yoga, we do want to find comfort in the uncomfortable, right? I guess it's not find comfort in it, but find contentment in it. Sometimes things will be uncomfortable, and things like, I wish my pedicure was better, is something that's a little irritating to the mind sometimes. And so just being like, it is what it is. I've always wanted to be one of those people who just are like that naturally. And maybe some of you are, but that is not me. Things are never perfect. They're never perfect. They're never good enough. And so I've really had to make an effort on being like, no, that is good enough. That is good enough right here, right now, and I can leave it. It's just fine right now. And so that's the exercise I do every single time that I do this pose. I try to be okay with the pedicure. And it spills over into life as well. If you can do that on your yoga mat, that'll spill over into life when something is kind of irritating because it's not perfect, and then you just think, it's fine. It'll be fine. I'm going to leave that because it doesn't behoove me to deal with that right now. I'm in the middle of something else. Don't be distracted. And then slowly, slowly, come on all the way up. From here, sitting cross-legged, we'll work on the arm flexibility just a little bit. So take the fingers and interlace them behind your back. So interlocking the fingers, and then straightening through the elbows as much as they'll allow you. Maybe that's all the way, maybe not. And a couple deep breaths here. And release. And then just for good measure, we want the shoulders to be relaxed, so a couple head rolls. So from here, right ear to right shoulder, nice and loose, tucking the chin, left ear to left shoulder, so not pushing it, but allowing it. And then up, we'll do 3. So with a second circle all the way around. And one more. And then float the head to neutral. And then other direction, so left to left. Tuck the chin. Right to right. And around. Number 2. Nice and slow. Number 3. And floating the head to neutral. From here, let's lay all the way back and we'll head into a spinal twist. So your choice, whether you do a 2-legged twist, which is the most mild, or a 1-legged twist, which is the next level up, or twisted roots, which is the more challenging version of our supine twist today. So laying all the way back. I'm going to move my blocks over there, lying back. And I'll head into twisted roots, arms in a T, palms facing down. Whatever variation you're doing today, lift and scooch the hips to the right and the knees go to the left. Keep the shoulders on the floor though. And just double checking that the shoulders are firmly planted on the floor. You might want to place a block beneath the knees. And then scoop the belly in, press the low back into the floor, unraveling, unwinding, squaring everything up in between sides. I like to do a little hug, a little Uppanasana, hug the knees in. And prepare for the other side, so arms in a T position, palms facing down, a little lift and scooch of the hips to the left as the knees go to the right. And keep the shoulders on the floor. Double check that the shoulders are firmly on the floor. And we're softening in the mid-back area. And then scoop the belly in, press the low back into the floor, unravel, unwind, and hug the knees in, little rock side to side. And to come up, you can come up slowly. You could roll over to the right and press yourself all the way up, or a little rock and roll all the way up to seated. And then we'll prepare for our peak pose. So we'll head into Parivrtta Janu Sirsasana. So for this one, I like to start in cross-legged. I'm going to scooch over to the left side of my mat. And then my left leg will stay in my cross-legged position. And the right leg will extend all the way out to the side. So what I'm trying to do here is have the same angle with the knees. So I've got my left in line with the right. So if we're less flexible, the legs will be a little bit more forward. If we're more flexible, they'll be more out to the sides. And then we'll lift up nice and tall. And from here, leaning over, reaching to the right, and keep the left sit bone on the floor. So this is the challenging part where we really feel that side stretch. I feel it more in the side body than I do in the leg. So eventually, the right hand clasps the arch of the foot. I like to just sort of hang onto the foot right at first, and then the left arm reaches up and over. So this is phase one of this pose. And then we're opening our heart to the sky. And then eventually we clasp the top arm to the outside edge of the foot. I'm not quite ready for that yet. I thought I might be, but I'm just going to take a minute right here and see how it goes. If you need to come out at all, come on out and then enter in again. So this is sort of like an Iyengar style way of doing this posture today. We'll give ourselves a bit of time. So I'll come on out. You can stay in. You can re-enter. Just taking some time working with this posture now that you know what this posture is. So same side, keep working, keep lengthening, and I'll see if I can go a little bit further the second go round maybe. And just carry on. So at your own pace, big deep breaths through the nose. Same sides, we're still working on that first side. I'm going to go ahead and give my third attempt here. And I did go a little bit further that second time, so it does work. Taking your time. And then scoop the belly in. Wherever you're at, come on all the way up. And geez, I feel really lopsided right now. So I'll head into the second side. All right, so I'm going to scooch over to the right side of my mat. So lopsided. And then try to get the angle of the knees the same. And then lifting up nice and tall. And then leaning over to the left. So I feel like I'm back to square one again here. Reaching, lengthening. And now that you know where you're going, feel free to go into the full variation if you're there. Or stay in the first variation. Whatever you do, wherever you're at, it doesn't matter. You're still receiving the same benefits. No matter what variation you're doing, as long as you are feeling that full range of motion and not pushing past it. And breathing free. And just coming in and out of the pose as much as you need to. And one side might feel different than the other. I know for me, the second side is definitely tighter, but I'm also more comfortable staying longer. So just working with the second side as if it's brand new, fresh, with caution. And just checking in, making sure you're giving yourself enough space. I'm about to head in for my third and final attempt. And wherever you're at, scooping the belly in. Come on all the way up. And we'll come on all the way out of that one. So we'll head into a nice cooling down posture, which is pigeon. While I just put myself back together with my microphone. So heading into pigeon pose. You can head into this one from downward facing dog. I feel like I just want to do hands and knees. I don't feel like going all the way up and back to down dog. Whatever you prefer. Right knee moves forward and the foot is behind the left wrist, but well behind. So I want to make sure we have that big angle here. And back leg moves back, or that, I guess I shouldn't say big angle, that acute angle. And inhale to lengthen. Exhale, sleeping pigeon. And just relaxing into it. And slowly, slowly come on up, either through downward dog or just hands and knees. I'm preparing for that second side, so left knee moves forward. And be sure that the knee is well above the foot. And then send the back leg back. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale, sleeping pigeon. And slowly, slowly, come on all the way up. And we'll prepare for final resting pose, so Shavasana. Taking all the time you need to get settled in. Maybe if you need a sweater, socks, probably not in the summer. I'm in my basement though, and it's a little chilly, but leaning all the way back. And as always, if your back requires a little bit of support today, a little extra support, feel free to keep the knees bent with the feet on the floor and letting the knees tip in towards each other. Otherwise, extend the legs, arms along the sides, palms facing up, and closing the eyes. So just like we did in centering, taking a few moments here to scan the body, feeling the spaces that we just stretched, allowing them to feel heavy, and just seeing if you can maintain your focus on those areas, not thinking about yesterday or what you'll be doing later or anything else, just focusing on the joints, the muscles, the tendons, the ligaments, allowing them to soften and feel heavy, and giving your body some space to absorb our practice today. All those new shapes. And then starting to come back, wiggle the fingers and the toes, and gently roll your head from side to side. And then reaching your arms above head on the floor for a big stretch, feeling totally refreshed. And bending your knees in one at a time. And gently roll over to the right side, pausing for just a moment as you come back. Slowly start to press yourself all the way up to a comfortable cross-legged seated position, taking all the time you need to arrive. And when you do, palms facing up on the knees. Inhale, sitting up tall, and exhale, softly close the eyes. Taking those final moments to thank yourself for showing up to your practice today and taking care of you. And slowly open the eyes. Namaste, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Have a really good rest of your day.